Didn't work.
Yep. Did not work out for them in the end, despite some solid early map movement, trading blow for blow with G2 in the early game. But when we got late, when they made that single mistake, things just worked against them. Ryze this time going to be banned out. Braum remaining a constant in the G2 ban strategy. Caitlyn also taken off the table this time around. I think a good choice. We've seen Kobbe be very successful in the pick, and I think this might be the new tier 1 AD carry.
I definitely agree. After nerfs to Lucian here in Europe, Caitlyn has been the #1 pick, and now a few interesting bans. First of all, Caitlyn ban is because they know Splyce will take it in the first rotation on their side, and therefore G2 doesn't want to be forced into having to first pick it or play against it. And Nivea is because we saw it yesterday from Splyce against the Vladimir as a last pick. Like, it wasn't actually a last pick, it was second rotation pick, but it was because Vladimir was first pick, and obviously G2 are setting up for a potential Vladimir first pick here and want to remove the counter Splyce showed against Schalke.
And I really like the G2's draft strategy that's coming out. They're just constantly threatening these power picks.
Yep.
So often willing to trade back and forth if it means getting the pick that they want. In this case, they get to pick up the Vladimir, but they do give up the Fizz for Wunder in the top lane, something he's been very successful on, as well as that Rek'Sai for Trashy.
So you give up Fizz, however, Trundle is still available. A pick Kikis played a lot, which can actually beat out the Fizz. Up in the top lane, Irelia will struggle early game against Fizz, but once she gets Sheen and she gets either Phage or Stinger, she can actually start going toe-to-toe, and it becomes a skill matchup up in the top lane. You just have to worry about the all-in from the Fizz, also because he can run an offensive summoner. So that definitely enough options for Kikis top lane, making the Vladimir the correct first choice. Because Rek'Sai, yes, she's fantastic right now, but there are still a lot of junglers which are so close to her in level. Gragas, Elise, these kind of picks are still very good. So I think G2 is fine first pick and Vlad, also because they ban away that Anivia and set it up.
Yeah, and I think overall the jungle pool just so even, as long as Nidalee's taken off the table. And Kindred, I'm not sure where she stacks up these days, but I think just a kind of a caution ban.
It's a trick ban almost more than anything. She wasn't even banned that much yesterday. A lot of junglers don't really seem to favor her anymore. They like Rek'Sai, Elise, Gragas, Nidalee, like these picks above her. But Trick has been a fantastic Kindred play in the past. And clearly Splyce is respecting it, maybe something from scrims as well.
Clearly earned that respect, obviously, in the previous season. And now busting out potentially the Gragas jungle, although we have seen that pick in the top lane as well. Of course, Sivir for Zven. You've got a lot of mobility coming in on this comp, and I really love the way that Sivir pairs with this Vladimir.
Exactly. It's just synergy across all 3 picks so far. Splyce can still build zone control with Zyra. Zyra Ashe is possible for them to pick. If you want more mobility in your AD carry, that's where the Lucian then comes in, or an Israel. But the Zyra here, it's offering zone control against Vladimir. It's what you need to beat him. Because if he's forced to always have to flash over that ulti, well, if Flash is down for one team fight, then it's actually not easy, but it's easier to then kite back and try and survive that engage coming from G2. Because it's very much a we gotta run at you composition.
Absolutely, and I really like the flexibility coming out here from Splyce on the opposite side as well. They've got excellent disengage with that Zyra, as well as excellent potential engage with the Fizz and the Rek'Sai. It seems very flexible so far. My big question mark is this Lucian pick coming out for Kobbe in the bottom lane. That's a pretty big nerf coming in the last patch. That range makes it so much harder to trade effectively during the laning phase.
And it's very tricky against Vladimir, Gragas. These picks, once they get close to Lucian, is a massive threat to him when he has to sit very close. I wonder if it's going to be Victor last pick for Splyce. It's something I've seen more and more into Vladimir with Ignite as the summoner spell. And you then play very aggressive in the laning phase against him. And then you have like Zyra ulti plus the Victor gravity field as like your zone control. And if you do manage to stun someone, or you manage to force them to like run at you and then take a detour around, you can get some pretty good damage down. I don't think Poppy is going to be the choice. It wouldn't make a whole lot of sense to me at least. But then Splyce could move the Fizz to mid lane. I think Victor, though, is a great choice.
Absolutely, of course. Maybe a Poppy support. I'm not gonna get my heart set on anything quite yet.
Double Doge isn't here.
The meta is too explosive. Hey, a lot of people played it for a while, although it's true. The Doge is not here elsewhere in the world. But the Soraka locked in for Mithy, as well as once again we're seeing this Irelia in the hands of Kikis. This is a really interesting shift for the team because so often Trick, aggressive junglers we talked about last game. Now, really Kikis showing up on this champion. Did fall behind a bit in lane, but Trick, used to feel like he just was always around PerkZ. Now he's consistently in that top lane providing pressure.
Especially also because we knew Wunder was trying to snowball that lane himself with the Illaoi pick. Really?
This is the greatest series ever. I'm so happy about this.
Interesting stuff. Mid lane. Splyce clearly have prepared quite a few counter picks to Vladimir when he gets locked in as a first pick. Because again, yesterday was the Nivea, something we've seen over in the LCK as well, especially from Faker. But just because Faker does it doesn't mean it is straight up counter pick.
That's very true. Things Faker does should not be your standard for what you should pick in the mid lane. Here's the situation I want to talk about. This is the dream situation in my head. Zyra lays down Stranglethorns. We lay down the brand new Cassiopeia Miasma. Of course, that grounded effect means you cannot use any mobility spells while you're under the effect of that poison, and it feels like a guaranteed way to land that Stranglethorn. And yeah, you have this amazing run at you comp on the side of G2, using the Soraka in the hands of Mithy to keep everyone healthy, but on the opposite side, this, I mean, if you get the right setup, this comp is very strong.
Again, we're going towards the zone control option. Just poison everywhere, Stranglethorn coming in from Zyra as well. It can become difficult then for G2 to engage, but that's where the Gragas comes in and becomes like the big playmaker. Flash body slam against some of these targets like Zyra, like Lucian, like a Cassiopeia obviously who doesn't have any extra mobility is so effective. So I'm looking at Trick in this game. If he can pull off the engages, I think there's a lot of ways for G2 then to win team fights. But if Splyce gets to kite back a little bit, set up these zones here, then suddenly it can become very scary.
Of course, and if you think Trick can pull off those engages, you can tweet out hashtag G2win. If you think they can 2-0 this set, or if you think Splyce can bring it back and tie it up, tweet out hashtag SPYwin. Maybe the Cassio is going to be what it takes to move them forward in this game.
You ready?
I'm so ready.
Game one was fantastic. So much action everywhere.
And so even for so long as well. Splyce just keeping up, and I'm wondering how this game is going to unfold. But this is it, folks. Game two. Splyce looking to tie this one up. G2 would be happy to have another 2-0 victory. There's a lot of questions we got to answer this time around because Cassio, not a pick we've seen in a long time here in EU.
A pick a lot of people consider weak, honestly. After the mage rework, a lot of the mages were better. Some of them were even a little bit too strong, like Vladimir, even like Victor. But Cassio was one of their mages that were kind of left behind. Obviously, the biggest nerf was the fact she no longer gets to buy boots, which is a key nerf against this Cassiopeia. But
it's interesting, they really committed to making sure Cassio has no mobility.
No mobility. Well, obviously, she does scale up with it, but the fact there are no boots for her
does eventually balance out as we move into the late game, but could be a huge issue in this early game, especially against PerkZ on Vladimir with this Ghost and a champion who is more than happy to just run at you and force these trades. But what she lacks in mobility, she does make up for in just raw damage output.
It's a machine gun. Again, if you get to sit there and deal damage, it's great. But in these fights here, you're constantly trying to run away from multiple members because Irelia is coming for you, Vladimir is coming. Proto-build is probably going to be built by PerkZ to give him even more mobility. And then, of course, Trick is the man, as we said, we're looking at. Mithy going to stop here. Always interesting to see what Mithy picks as supports. He's been counter-picking quite a lot, and now he's just trying to be as annoying as possible. Stopping this Grump here. Doesn't want to give Splyce a chance to rush a level 2 without losing some HP first. And also, obviously, Zven down in the lane trying to set up the first few minions. Get them low, then last hit them, and again, make sure Splyce can just instantly rush at you without losing something when they get level 2.
And this is something that Krepo and I talked about when we watched H2K yesterday with this Zyra in the hands of Vander. So you see some trading in the mid lane here, is that she does offer a lot of damage. She offers great disengage. But what she has in damage, she loses out in tankiness. Very vulnerable AD carry. And you can see the trade going down here. Heal coming out from Kobbe. Mikyx just does not have any tools to trade right now.
Well, level 1 for him. Wants to get level 2, obviously. Very early, but we talked about this, how Mithy were trying to delay the Grump as much as possible. Zven was setting up the wave. But as you said, with Zyra here, yes, she's not a tank by any means. Another thing she doesn't offer is hard engage, which is something we don't see from a lot of supports right now. So Mithy here, very often late picking his supports, trying to tailor around what the enemy bot lane is, what the enemy team composition is. Like we saw the Tahm Kench last pick twice. It was last game, and then also last week we saw it, where it's against like a pick composition or composition with a lot of single target CC. He then last picks the Tahm Kench. It's very smart because it can really counter enemy team comps because support has so many options. Like no supports are locked into having to be an engaged champion anymore. You can be disengaged, you can be pure denial in like a Tahm Kench, you can be engaged with like still the Alistar, maybe even like a Sona.
And it's really interesting to see, with the support champion pool so wide open right now, how greatly this affects the compositions that we see come out, because Vladimir feels like a staple in the mid lane. You see Victor, a lot of these picks like pretty much have to come through because of the damage they bring to the table. But really where you get to see that flexibility is in the bottom lane. Tahm Kench, great for denying those picks. You've got Soraka now for these sustained team fights. Zyra, an option for disengage. And it's just so vastly different in terms of what they bring to the table.
Yeah, and the reason this Soraka also can be picked by G2 in this game is because they see like Zyra is there. Okay, so there's not going to be any hard engage from support. It's going to be like a poke lane. Like Zyra is fantastic at poking. But obviously then Soraka counters it by having so much sustain in the laning phase, because Zyra can really all in, unless you manage to land like a max range E, which is almost impossible at pro level to set that up properly.
The good old days when that had a 200 to 300 more projectile speed.
Good old days, indeed. And when players were bad and you could just time it with them walking up to last hit a minion, you would just put a flower straight at them and then E on them and you would have your fight. But no longer, it doesn't happen anymore. Players are much better now, as you said, some changes. So this Soraka suddenly didn't really feel like a risky pick because the amount of engage weren't really there. Rek'Sai is good though, but also because Cassio comes in as a last pick. Obviously G2 didn't know this, but she's a machine gun champion and the Soraka's silence.
That's exactly what I was going to talk about. It's
can't
perfect.
stop her.
Yeah, if Cassio's ever locked in a single area and you can't immediately blow her up, a quick silence to throw down. It's going to take her at least a second to walk out of that slow field, especially with such low mobility. And it's very interesting to see how these team fights unfold, because there's a lot of counterplay opportunities on both sides, and I don't feel like it's last game where we're waiting for one composition to come be perfect. Like, we're not waiting for someone to scale up or have an amazing team fight opportunity like the Caitlyn. This time around, it feels much more even in multiple stages of the game.
And this is why I like this top lane change as well with the meta, where it's, again, these champions, where it's actually worth it to gank the lane. Because Irelia, who gets ahead, or Fizz, who gets ahead, both of them can take over the lane. Great early trading here by Kikis.
Excellent overall. Fizz, this is something sometimes a little bit weaker early game, doesn't have the Playful Trickster cooldown available whenever he needs it. And Kikis just no fear trading on the back of that level 3.
Yeah, it's exactly here. Kikis managed to get a level up. Wunder still level 2, so he couldn't really challenge Kikis. It's very important early on. Like, just one extra level is massive for you. I mean, opens up a whole new ability that the other guy doesn't have. So, good early start here by G2, and a lot of focus on early pushing lane to gain experience advantages and also deny them away from Splyce. So I really like that little start. Trick is down on the bottom side. Ward is being placed. Does get cleared out.
And I really like the flexibility that Trick has shown here. Last game we saw so much camping on the top side, but now that Kikis looks a little bit more comfortable in the laning phase, he's kind of shifting where he wants to put that pressure, and that flexibility is going to pay dividends for G2 depending on how these lanes unfold.
Yeah, here he's basically just, he was there for safety. Like, you guys are going to push up again and again and again, because what G2 is trying to do is force every single potion away from Splyce bot lane, which they have now managed to do, meaning that every single trade that happens from now on is heavily in favor of G2. Only an all-in can work from Splyce, but they're too low to all-in. So there's Soraka healing, there's still a potion on your AD carry, meaning Splyce cannot take more poke damage. But they're stuck on the tower against a Soraka with Q, the bouncing damage as well from a Sivir. Like, it's really difficult for Splyce, and they're forced to recall, honestly, very soon. And then they fall even further behind. It's 38 CS to 20.
And something I want to talk about here is that you look at the mid lane as you see the trades happening on bottom. Cassio has to burn through all of her mana to trade effectively with this Vladimir and all the sustain that he brings to the table. And you can see means that Sencux just consistently getting bullied out here. And while the Cassio may be able to bring something to the table later in the game, it is really suffering here in the early laning phase.
Yeah, and she just struggles so much against like big frontline, like a Gragas in here, who can just dive straight at her because she has to constantly move then and kite around, and she can't really reach the backline due to a very short range as well. So it's difficult. Bot lane is still staying in lane, but they're very low, meaning they have zero pressure on the side of Splyce because they got poked down, no potions, lost so much from the Gromp as well. Early push in, Trick once again on bottom side, making sure my bot lane is not going to get ganked. And now you can set up a dive because look how low Zyra is.
Moving in, Mithy does still have the snare. Great silence, quick first blood, double kill. Best bot lane in EU, backed up by their jungler. Gonna snag that one with no effort whatsoever.
And top lane, Tsepha. Kikis is on the wrong side, and here's Trashy.
Oh, Kikis' wild ride, dropping lower. All it's gonna take is one more Prey Seeker. Or a quick smite, drop him down.
Love it.
A little hand to God action there. Just
didn't want to risk Kikis flashing away as well. But G2 definitely getting the better end of that trade.
Absolutely.
2 kills on the bottom side. Great start for them, and now on your first back you get a BF sword.
And look, the thing that I want to point out here is not only do they get these kills, but look at the massive differential in farm. You pointed out mid lane, 58 to 36 now. Looking at the bot lane, 58 to 26. Yeah. Kobbe, 30 CS differential. This is 6 minutes into the game.
I actually pointed out the bot lane, but because mid lane was the same, then obviously it fit for both of them. They were just so far ahead. And farm, this Cassiopeia pick is not really showing anything yet. Level 6 has been hit now. I want to see, once they get this one-on-one trade, the Cassiopeia should be able to win it. And often when you play against Vlad, what you're trying to do is just deal more damage than he can actually sustain. But the problem is you need to do it consistently, like all the time, because otherwise he's going to sustain back from minions. And then it becomes very difficult, and Vlad can also just put down his ulti and then step away from you to get even more HP. But because G2 got such a big advantage on bottom side, they made a very early swap, putting their Gragas on bottom side just to defend with the ulti.
Oh, nice use the ultimate there just to break that wave. Wunder moving in here. Just a little bit of cheeky trading going down. Splyce focusing their attention on the bottom side. G2 grabbing their first tower.
This is something I see more and more now, where if you have an advantage, especially in the 2v2 lane, you recall, and instead of returning to your lane, you instantly rush to the opposite lane, and then you send either your jungler, or if you have a support who can actually wave clear, down a PerkZ. Sure
Not at all what you want. Mithy,
here.
Soraka ambulance, perfectly on the way, but
no mana now, so damage is kind of gone. But as I said before, you then sent, like I saw Splyce do it with Zyra. They sent her to the lane to defend and just used everything on minions to just slow you down. G2 just did the exact same because they had a Gragas with level 6, so they put Q and then ulti. Again, slow down Splyce. It means you get that early tower, you head in tempo, so you have now recall with your AD carry and you can return to whichever lane you want to. Splyce is just recalling now because they got delayed. So something I see more and more. It's interesting with some of these picks that can actually wave clear, like Gragas, like Zyra.
Something that we have to look for too if more tower trades do come out. Good dodge out on the equilibrium strike there by Wunder. Does not, however, give it the cooldown, so just a quick hop back in. So we can see while every other lane on the side of Splyce may be suffering, Wunder doing quite well for himself. A 20 CS advantage. Kikis going to shrink this up at least a little bit. Wunder starting to get aggressive. Trick here. Trashy though. Trick not even going to pay attention to that. Knock back into the turret. Does he have the playful trickster? Does not look like it. Great movement. Can they make it two? The flash away. Trashy doesn't have his from earlier. That's going to be the one for 0. The moment of overstep there from Wunder in the top lane.
So not only is G2 winning bot lane and mid lane, the only lane they are technically losing is top. And then they actually managed to win that 2v2 under their own tower. Splyce trying to set up a dive. Backfires and G2 picks up another kill. So 2,000 gold lead for them. Almost 2,000 at this point. And a free farming Vladimir is Sivir with a massive advantage. Let's see it again. So setting up a dive is actually correct from Splyce, because when you have these big advantages, you've got to dive, you've got to really commit to it. Great gank though from Trick, and now here, damage is gone, stun from Kikis.
Trashy, of course, used the flash earlier to pick up that first kill, so just has no follow-up. PerkZ taking a lot of damage though, could be in trouble. Rek'Sai on the hunt, the flash out, Ghost used as well. Mobility Summoner's paying off in the end as PerkZ will make it to safety, but just gonna grab a quick bit of healing off those Raptors and run right back to the middle lane. TP into bottom though. On the hunt, burn, Kobbe in trouble. Equilibrium strike going to come out. Silence goes down. Is not going to be able to lock up Kikis. Great movement there coming in from the team. And another kill drops for G2. They are dominating Splyce.
Yeah, it's so hard for Splyce right now because everywhere they go in the map, there's a chance of them dying.
Oh no.
Mikyx, yeah.
Level 8 to level 5.
The fat man is coming.
Knock back, knock in.
That's the belly.
Taken down. PerkZ getting aggressive in the mid lane. It just never stops. G2 absolutely own the map. This feels like a throwback to when we saw them in spring, where they just get the lead early game and they just obliterate your team.
There's only one lane Splyce is winning. Again, it's top. Trashy's been behind. Is that TP location for Wunder? Or Trashy's just trying to like buy time and clear out the wave? They can't really do a whole lot, but again, they're only winning top on the side of Splyce. So G2 is constantly just sending multiple members around to push tower. They're like, okay, you're winning that one lane, that's great, but we're already taking the top tower because we send our Sivir up there. Now we're putting all the pressure on bottom side. You saw Kikis TP in. Here's the Wunder TP we talked about.
Mithy in trouble though. This is going to be the Soraka going down. Nice quick pickup. Good dodge out there overall. PerkZ ready to heal back up. But in the meantime,
still on the dragon.
Trick just grabs the Infernal Dragon, and this is one of the most terrifying dragons to play against when the enemy team does have a lead, because 8% may not be worth too much. But if you're an item up, it just makes it that much scarier. Wunder, my God! Burned down instantly. Trashy maybe trying to come back in, but Sencux is keeping the trade going. Irelia looking pretty strong right about now. Oh, nice movement in there. Heal. Is it going to be enough? One more tick. Can he draw? Splyce cannot get a break this time. The gold lead continues to extend, and they want to get this tower, but Mithy's already on the way to try to stop this.
Just Soraka, though, for now. Minion wave is dying, so Splyce not able to get the tower, but more trading, more fights early on here. Tier is great for new Cassiopeia, obviously, with the region coming from it. So the fact you just got to deal some more DPS.
Of course, cost reduction on those spells is nice to have. She casts so many perks. Taking some decent damage here. Looks like Splyce are going to try to commit to this trade, but the Ghost cooldown so much lower. He's going to be able to run to safety once again.
Yeah, and also you see early cooldown reduction boots from PerkZ, reducing cooldown even more on his 2 summoner spells. Very effective. Ghost is fantastic on Vladimir, especially late game. I think it's much better than like Teleport, because you need it for these team fights. You do so much also with the scaling of it. So great for him later on, and he needs it to dodge around the Zyra ulti and the poison from the Cassiopeia.
Oh, Snare not going to come out. Rek'Sai not going to be moving towards Perks.
But he's keeping 2 guys busy right now on the bottom side, and rest of G2 has completely warded up top side of the map, applying pressure on 2 lanes, but not able to commit right now. They know PerkZ can't join because he's getting pushed in. Trashy.
Maybe looking to move in from the side. Zven suddenly all on his own. They're now going to move over to take Rift Herald. G2, they don't even care about these individual lane matchups. They already have the farm lead. They've got the pressure advantage, and they're just going to keep taking anything and everything that's left open to them.
Yeah, this landing phase ended like 5-6 minutes ago because we had that massive advantage on the bottom side. We talked about it again and again, how G2 were playing around, pushing in, burning all the potions. Trick shows up just as backup. He said, guys, I'm just here in case a gank does happen. I'm here to counter gank, so you can keep pushing, keep pushing. Set up that dive later for him. Easy target, 2 kills, swap top lane, get another tower. Really just speed up the game, and it's been a G2 thing for 2 splits now. High tempo. Even in the game we had before where they technically wanted to scale up and team fight, they were active on the map.
Trading fights and objectives across the map.
And that's the thing. Offense is the best defense. You have to make plays yourself to stop the other team from doing something. Or you need
trying to get aggressive. Stranglethorn's not going to land. Maybe hoping to get out. Wish comes through. Trashy on the way. PerkZ set to drop here. Good play coming in from Kobbe and the rest of Splyce. A moment of over-aggression. Not going to mean much, unfortunately, for them, but a brief reprieve from this pressure, and they may want to turn it into more. Potentially looking to catch out Trick. Not going to be enough.
And I don't mind these kind of plays if the rest of your team is doing something. Trick.
Getting aggressive. Wants to kill onto Zyra. All right. I guess you can do that. Moving forward, though, Soraka suddenly on the back line. Kobbe has no mana, moving into the silence field, gets snared up. That's a massive moment of mispositioning. Sencux there to make sure they have the safe retreat. But Trick, huge show of confidence there.
As I said before here, I don't mind the plays PerkZ are trying to do if the rest of your team is pushing other lanes and you're buying time, but in that case, G2 were not ready to push. They all came back from base. So it was just a bad play from PerkZ in the first place. However, Trick is really fed. He's level 10.
And he just wants to keep the play going. And we said there was no pressure, but when you have a minute and a half of fighting, essentially.
And he sees like this support who's really, really squishy. He's like, okay, you're just going to walk into my jungle? Well, I'm not afraid of your team, and just dives in. So he actually makes up for it and trades 1-for-1 technically.
Yeah.
Rest of G2 then has loads of time to get a mid tower. And that's why you know a game is almost impossible to win. When the enemy mid laner makes an over-risky play, gets punished for it, and they technically can't get anything, you still lose out, eventually.
Gotta say, Zven moving forward here. Blocks that. Oh! Sorry, audience. That was good!
Reaction time. I actually like the play there from Sencux, though. He got the spell shield away, and he's like, okay, this is my time. And then, instant.
I don't care if that play did not get them anything. If I was Sencux, I would be so upset. Excellent little moment of individual outplay there from Zven. And we were talking earlier about the Zyra, and I feel like yesterday we talked about how squishy and vulnerable she could be.
Yes.
And no one really was able to capitalize on that. But today, Splyce are doing a very good job of punishing this pick.
I mean, we talked about Trick in the Champ Select, how we're like, Trick, you know what? This is your game. If you're fantastic on this Gragas, if you can body slam, flash, start fights, you can get onto these squishy targets in the back line and you will win the fights. And he's also winning 1v3 fights, but that's a different kind of story. He's playing well.
Yeah.
Kikis with the Rift Hell buff, finds Wunder.
Moving in, of course, going to be pretty easy for him to pick this one up. Rek'Sai coming down, but it's going to be too little too late. Tries to make it out. Flash comes through. The Ignite not enough to stop Kikis' onslaught, and really just getting that much harder. PerkZ wants his turn, though, for the 1v1 outplay. He's running on a Sencux, knows there's no ult available, and that's going to be easy to burn down. Ignite's simply not enough. Trick
tried to help.
He wants the assist. Maybe he wants the kill even for himself. Tanking the tower as they move in. And there's, unfortunately for Splyce, this game just is not getting any easier. And G2 are putting on a clinic in how to dominate a team. Splyce getting back what they can in these exchanges, but hope running out for the young lineup.
2 winning lanes, and then the 1 lane Splyce did win. Doesn't really matter anymore because Kikis got the Rift Hell buff and more gold as well. His team now is taking down 5 towers, so he's even able to 1v1 the Fizz. Meaning Splyce right now have no winning lanes at all, have no map control, no dragons. We can keep going.
Yeah, it just doesn't get easier from here, unfortunately. The only source of reliable AD damage, as we look at this, of course, is that Lucian.
And this was the winning lane technically for Splyce earlier, but now with all these small things for Kikis,
I love
he's able to win.
The footwork from Kikis here is really nice. Dashing to that caster creep because he knows he can one-shot it to reset the dash. Of course, has to use the flash in the end, but doing a really good job. And unfortunately, that's one of the downsides about those point-and-click CCs for Fizz is that the Playful Trickster just does not stop it. You're going to get that cooldown back.
And then technically the 1v1, but there was no ulti because it was used before.
Yeah.
Then Trick trying to help, gets another dragon as well.
Spends a lot of time in this pit, solo taking the dragon.
Yeah, last time it took him about a minute, I think, to actually kill the dragon, but the rest of the team were just fighting in mid lane and getting
winning
kills as well. So,
so
I guess why not?
Yeah. Things going very well for G2 this time around. Good to see that after a very...
I like that statement. It's going very well. Yeah, you know, 6,000 gold lead, 18 minutes in, 2 dragons, 5 towers.
Well, and I like the way that they've been able to shift their style here as they pick up that Ocean Drake as well. Like PerkZ, he's just going to be able to walk away here. Cassio, though, getting a little aggressive. Wunder maybe looking to make this play happen. Pool's already been burned. Soraka, how much healing does she have? Nice sidestep. PerkZ using the Ghost, trying to make it to safety. Mithy healing up what he can, but the Soraka just making sure the Vladimir will not drop. So Trashy suddenly in trouble. Mithy on the sides, though, will get burned down. Good pickup from Splyce, but Zven is on the top side pushing already.
G2 didn't want to fight here. That's why they just tried to disengage because Zven wasn't there. Kikis as well, coming from the bottom side. Splyce only gets 1 kill, but at this point, 1 kill is basically all you can hope for.
Oh, Mikyx so squishy. Almost burned down immediately. Zven, of course, does have to burn that ultimate on the top side to make it to safety. While G2 may have given up that kill, they still have that massive gold lead in their favor.
And if you are G2 at this point, your focus is taking down towers, really not getting more kills because you have a big enough advantage. You just want to make sure the enemy team has no towers left other than their base, and then you can just take an early Baron once it spawns, or set up a fight around it and force them to come and fight you. So them trading 1 kill for 50% damage on this top tower technically is worth it, but if you are Splyce, it's small victories now. It's the very, very small things like, can we get a few extra waves? Can we maybe pick up a kill without losing an objective straight up? Slowly, you might be able to claw your way back, but it is so difficult at this point, and as long as G2 can play around this Baron properly, Splyce should never have a chance to really get to late game. Not that I think the late game is that much better for Splyce either. I actually think G2 has a fantastic late game.
The thing that I really want to look at, though, is that the one good piece of news for Splyce is that it's not double Mountain Drake this time around, because if G2 had that, there'd be no question that they could burn down the Baron instantly. So at least they can feel comfortable that they should be able to contest these Barons, because it's still going to take a long time for G2 to burn through them, especially at the 20-minute mark. Towers, unfortunately, a different story, as Trashy has to flash out there. The fight now happening. Wunder looks to go deep here. Zven very low mana. Jump up, jump down, but Zven is still alive. The shutdown comes in for Kobbe. The fight continues. Here comes PerkZ, though. Maybe looking to play on the back line. Kikis taking a lot of damage on the front. PerkZ not sure where he wants to go. G2 have to be careful here. The turn comes out. Wunder now getting aggressive, moving forward. Mithy healing up who he can. Witch comes out. PerkZ on the backside, but he is all alone.
The pentakill right there in front of him.
Maybe he wants it. Heal comes out to take Trashy to safety. PerkZ ready for the setup. So much damage. Mikyx trying to disengage. He's going to get burned down. Kikis keeping the train rolling. PerkZ moving in. That's the shutdown. The double. He wants to make it 3, and it's going to be PerkZ with the triple kill. The extended team fight for G2.
I mean, PerkZ could see that. They're like, oh man, they're so low. They're all 5 running together, but there was no flash for him. Sadly, he couldn't get in the mix of all the Splyce members. Instead, he gets a triple kill. I think he'll take it. Inhib down as well, 21 minutes.
One rabbit versus the world.
It's a fake rabbit.
No. Are you serious?
It's a weird blue-looking rabbit with a weapon.
On the hunt, burned. Rek'Sai not looking for the flank. He may have overstayed, though. Isn't going to be able to invade there. Now hesitating to move forward. Has to be incredibly careful. Sven may not have mana, but PerkZ definitely a threat here. Mithy all alone, however. G2 don't have the vision to chase him down. Fight just continuing. No one engaging quite yet. Mithy potentially
trying
isolated.
to get something here. Like, they're hoping that some of G2 were maybe recalling out of position. They could pick them off and potentially try and rush a Baron with this Cassiopeia and then force a fight around it like 4v5. You can see that hovering here. They're basically saying, we want to fight because this is our last chance. We want you to come in here, not have all 5 members available, and we then win the fight. But it's very early on.
Baron, the disengage comes out. Not too much damage down on the Splyce quite yet. Fish goes in. Mithy suddenly all alone
Kill
here.
Mithy.
Does he have the flash? No, he does not. Quick pickup for Wunder. It's going to make the fight really easy, but Splyce just taking the consolation prize here. They're paying out the mid lane, and they have to defend.
Well, they're getting some of these kills we talked about, and why they started at Baron.
Sven suddenly has mana. A lot easier for him to pick up these kills. That's the 3-man Hemoplex. Flash in from PerkZ. Gonna grab another one. The double coming in for him. Kikis on a rampage. He gets 2. PerkZ gets 2. And Splyce gets aced. The shutdown comes in, but it's just the consolation prize as G2 are now poised to break another inhibitor.
The only thing Splyce could do, try and force a fight when maybe some of the members for G2 were back in base, get a few picks here and there. Otherwise, nothing you can do. Sadly for them, rest of G2 was still around. Inhib goes down. 6 kills on PerkZ now on this Vladimir. Still, I'm looking at Trick as the man. In the early game, great early ganks from him. Control. He's been playing really well today. And now everyone else is just benefiting from the performance Trick had. And technically, the laners had also in the early game. Like everyone, man, they just played well.
Absolutely, the team as a whole just doing incredibly well. Kikis on this Irelia pick, looking strong. And
we gone way back here. So it's a fight before the whole Baron dance started happening. And basically here you see a wild PerkZ showing up at the bottom of your screen, watching 5 members running next to each other.
He wants it so bad.
They're so low. He's an AoE mage, but Protoball used there, no flash for him, and it's just not possible to get close enough. Where's the Malphite ulti when you need it to set up the Vladimir?
Oh, no Vladimir ultimate needed. We're going to watch this. You can see hunger in his eyes. Kikis ruining the potential for a Quadra. How dare you? And then just, yes.
Beautiful.
Sweet release on that E. Happy to grab the triple kill there and then just continue to dominate in the following fight. Of course, now has the death cap as well.
Why not?
On top of double Ocean Drake and Infernal Drake. Kikis. Any other champion, I'd say maybe they're caught out, but Kikis just walking away there. Oh, Trashy though. May not be so fortunate.
Now we at the Baron again. One more time. Double inhib down. Splyce looking for that one crazy team fight.
Mikyx potentially in trouble. Trick looking for the angle on the barrel. Trashy and Sencux going forward, but now the flank comes out. That's a moment of misposition. Pop goes the Cassio. Domination coming in for G2 once again. Splyce trying to get what they can. Wunder buying time on the backlines, but he is poised to drop. Hawk, skip, and a jump back into Mithy to pick up the return kill, but in the end, he's still going to drop. And PerkZ, the triple kill. What? The quadra kill coming in. This man, 1v5, the dream for the Vladimir. He's going to end the game. The rest of his team happy to pick up the kill on the bunny, but PerkZ the man on a mission to make this game happen.
And of course, Mithy is the only man dying, feeding as much as he can down the back line. But yeah, massive, massive, massive win for G2 here. What a game.
Absolutely. A commanding win coming in from G2 and the aggressive style from them we've come to know and love. And another 2-0, 7-1 in the season so far.
Tsepha won in the laning phase, honestly. Bot lane 2v2 winning on the side of G2. Obviously PerkZ out farming in the mid lane. Great early setups with Trick on the bottom side, secured early kills, rotated to the top side, then suddenly tower started falling. Laning phase ended very early because of all these rotations back and forth. And as we talked about, the only lane Splyce were winning was the Fizz lane. But even then, what can you do if the rest of your map is losing?
Absolutely. You just cannot afford to drop that much in the laning phase. I respect Splyce for going for these aggressive new meta picks, taking these risks and picks and bans. But at the end of the day, it really did not work out for them. And Cassio getting shut down so hard in lane.
That was an odd one.
The nerfed Lucian as well.
Yeah, like Cassio pick in there. We talked about how a lot of players feel she's the weakest of like the reworked mages, or one of the weakest of them. Didn't really have any impact in the game. Lost the laning phase. Very hard to play in team fights, as we talked about multiple times. We didn't even get really to a fair team fight because it was a massive goal lead for G2 already before fights even started.
I don't think those end game fights can really be a sign of
nothing
superior coordination than anything. Or it was the goal is simply too greatly in favor of G2. But I mean, they earned that advantage in the early game. Splyce, of course, showing that when they do go even in lanes that they can keep up with the best teams, but really going to have to adjust those laning phase. The nerf Lucian not bringing it up to the table. Trying out the new Zyra, but G2 looked completely ready to play around it. Maybe they've seen it in the scrims before, but
for sure,
capitalizing on the vulnerabilities of that champion left and right.
Yeah, again, great game from G2. Last game as well, very close but clear win conditions for both teams, where while Splyce had some good moves, it still felt like G2 were in control almost all the time. Then we got to late game in that game, and they got the Baron, and the game was over. This one here was basically, as we said, just one in the laning phase. So great performance, and great to see them bounce back. We're seeing a team, when they play with Kikis up in the top lane, undefeated so far with him. And it seems like there's a lot more control about what's happening, where we're sending Kikis on the map, you know, when does he TP, when does he actually rotate, compared to Expect, which is something we shouldn't be surprised about, because he's new on this team.
New player,
roster.
Of course. And I think really interesting to see how Kikis has grown as a top laner overall, because he's been very strong. But, I mean, for more on that game, let's send it down to Pyrotechnic.